Our next guest will be questioning Bruce Ohr during a closed-door hearing scheduled for next week on August 28. Joining us tonight, Republican Congressman Andy Biggs, member of the House Judiciary Committee and the Freedom Caucus. Congressman, good to see you. Now suddenly Ohr and Yates are the figures of the hour. Let's start with Ohr. And why does he still have a job?
Well, that's the one that leaves me scratching what little hair I have left. I mean, there's a guy that actually participated, and we're going to find out a little bit more, but what we know publicly, he participated in the creation of this Fusion GPS dossier, which has been totally discredited. He was apparently, you want collusion, looks like he might have been colluding with his wife over this, who was working for Fusion GPS. There is no reason in the world why this guy should be employed by the United States of America.
And Sally Yates, signing off on at least one of the FISA warrant applications. She has been out of the public view ever since she resigned, and now suddenly becoming prominent once again.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I will credit her one thing. She kind of tried to keep a low profile in this, maybe hoping it would go away, but it is all going to come back splashing up on her, because the question is exactly this. What did she know about what Bruce Ohr was doing? Did she sanction what Bruce Ohr was doing? Did she facilitate that? And did she lie in the FISA warrant, or did she hide information when she signed off on a FISA affidavit?
No, and I said that she resigned, President Trump firing her
yes,
because she refused to follow directions of the President of the United States. So yeah, where are we headed here? Or Yates, it seems it's taken us forever. It's only been 2 years to get to this point in the so-called investigation, the investigations of Congress, the investigation of the special counsel, the investigation first of the FBI. My God, at what point do we say there should be some more energy in Congress itself? And I compliment you and your colleagues who have been at the forefront of that investigative effort. But let's be candid. If the American people were the ones taking this long to do anything, we would miss several elections in this country. And it's just inexcusable to me that we've got this kind of apathetic leadership, and I am talking about your Speaker, Paul Ryan.
Well, the congressional torpor at the highest levels is absolutely frustrating to me. You know, but don't forget, we also have an attorney general who has let this thing go on. He's let the Mueller investigation go.
I couldn't forget if I wanted to, Congressman.
Yeah,
and I do want to.
Yeah, it's gone on way too long. We're not seeing any criminal investigations of people. So when Brennan talks about treason, well, how about trying to undermine the election himself, briefing Harry Reid? Harry Reid, you know, we're going to find out more about this and Brennan's role in this, that, you know, he has a very expansive view of what treason may be. Well, he might just be calling the kettle black himself when he does that.
Well, if you can figure out what he means by treasonous, he has tried. He said that it was nothing short of treason, the Helsinki statements of the president, which is really mind-boggling when you think about it. And now he's trying to say that he didn't mean treasonous. I mean, please, this man is, to think he was the head of the CIA, he is oafish. He is clumsy beyond imagination with words, and I don't think he knows what the hell he's talking about to begin with.
No, I agree 100%. And you know, the thing that drives me crazy is I want to know if he monetized his security clearance post his appointment. You know, so when he's out of office, did he monetize this? So where he's, and I believe, you know, it looks like he did. He's out there making money hand over fist. Offering opinions here and there, and who knows? I want to know, did he monetize this?
Well, what about the over 60 former intelligence officials who are supporting him? What in the world was the intelligence apparatus in this country under President Obama? Those are some of the most. I mean, it's just, it is ineffable. Well, the amount of ignorance and just foolishness on their part.
Does it not speak to the fact that the federal government has gotten so big and the intelligence apparatus has maybe gotten too independent from the oversight that Congress is supposed to have over it? I mean, that's what it kind of speaks to me. I mean, these people saying, well, he should have his clearance. Well, no, I'm trying to understand why anybody has clearance after they leave employment of the secret, classified type of jobs that we have. They shouldn't have it. They shouldn't have it.
There's no doubt of that, and on this broadcast, we have made it very clear that we believe that no one, once they leave the service of the government in any administration, should automatically lose their security clearance, period. Full stop.
Right.
Until the President of the United States or his department heads decide that that person is of such an essential value to government and to the administration that they have a security clearance, a new one, issued. It just shouldn't be happening. This president has a great opportunity to clean up a good measure of the swamp by getting rid of those security clearances as a right and perk of privilege for political appointees. It's nonsense. Yeah. It fuels much of the deep state in this country.
Absolutely right. I mean, and you're right. It is part of the swamp. It's the part that people don't see. But when it is exposed to the American people, they're outraged. I mean, they should be outraged. As a member of Congress, I'm outraged. I didn't know that all these people had this top classified clearance until this Brennan flap. And then you go. I was shaking. I said, "This can't be true. You know, we have to investigate this." And we find out all these people have this clearance. And are they monetizing it? Are they getting paid to go out in private industry? Are they using this clearance?
Of course they are. We may not know, but we can, I think, within the bounds of reason, assume correctly that many of them are doing exactly that. Congressman, as always, it's great to see you. We thank you for being with us, Congressman Andy Biggs. Thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Appreciate it.